Good evening, afternoon, night, morning, whenever you find a way to watch, listen to this podcast. It is me, Omar. I'm back. Not joined by Jackson this week, but joined by a friend nonetheless, a good friend and a common guest nonetheless. This is my first podcast back. By the time this is released, I guess the podcast that I had with Alex Shear of the Mac Sports Connection podcast will have dropped on Friday. So be on the lookout for that. He does amazing work with the Mac. I've been listening to his regular season podcast just recently during during work, and this is great work. The Max beautiful. But joining me today, I have Sam of Blue and Gold Report, a good friend. I mean, we were joking around that we got this chemistry just by being, Army and Navy fans, but we're here to bring you some peak off-season content. Like this is definitely content for me at its greatest, but it's just something that's just on my mind, honestly, like more than really should be. And I guess I'll share a story later on. But Sam, how's everything going?
Everything's good. As I told everyone, haven't really been doing much content, had a kidney stone, but guess what? It's passed, so we're all good, feeling good. So we are on the up and up.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I didn't want to share that news. I mean, I didn't think you wanted to share it, but kudos to you for being, the brave man to announce that you're a kidney stone survivor. So I mean, I guess that's all. I'll close the book on that topic, rather than expound upon that and scare off what little listeners we have. Even though we did get up to 160, I think it's 163 or so subscribers after the giveaway. So if you're watching this, I'll put a link to the giveaway in this description. And if you want to be in the running for a new fresh towel, a fresh Sam Houston State Air Force towel played at NRG Stadium, go ahead. Just as long as you use the Air Force part to rub your nutsack. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not that type of Service Academy fan. I'm not that type of Service Academy fan. I guess I'll show the towel. So yeah, there we go. To my desk drawer in the Salute to Service Classic, the only one ever. It's funny when they give one time games like that names, because this isn't going to be an every year thing, but the only Salute to Service Classic towel. But I guess that's a good segue to our topic today, Sam. Neutral site service academy games. And for me, I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast, but I'm sure if you follow my writing or just follow my discourse on Twitter, I am a very staunch defender of the Notre Dame-Navy rivalry. It's actually one of my favorite rivalries in college football. It's underrated in my opinion, and this year's game, it's going to be the third straight game at a neutral site, which is pretty crazy. And I'm sure Notre Dame fans don't miss having to pay for Notre Dame Navy in their season ticket package. So I mean, I guess they're happy about that. Some Notre Dame fans at least. But this year the game will be played at MetLife Stadium, aka Giant Stadium 2.0 for me, the young wannabe old head. This year it's at MetLife Stadium for the first time since 2010. But the game's been at MetLife or Giant Stadium many times, not I guess many times in the past, and it's kind of like I wouldn't say a iconic venue in the series, but we're here to talk about which Notre Dame Navy neutral site, other than Ireland, because that's in a class on its own, obviously, has the best vibes. So Sam, I guess we'll start off like bottom line up front, which site, I guess, of Notre Dame Navy that we've seen like recently through our lifetime, like the past couple decades, do you think has the best vibes?
Oh, well, for me, Jacksonville is the one with the best vibes. I mean, you're in Florida, it's sunny, and you got the midshipmen. They're in their whites, and I mean, in 2016, they're wearing ball caps that they gave out. You can tell they were having a good time. It ain't San Diego where you might get rain. It's not up in Baltimore or New York where it might be cold. It's in sunny Florida, and you can tell people have a great time. And if to the 2016 game, that was a Will Worth special, and I don't think anyone will ever forget that game. I won't anyway. I mean, I remember I was actually going to go to an NC State game after that game, but I wore my Navy stuff to the tailgate, wearing a Navy hat. I mean, I was all in, watched it all the way. And you could tell the vibes, especially with us Navy fans, were very immaculate.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I get that. So for me, if I was, so I guess two things. I love the cold weather sites more than I guess the warm weather sites, because for me it's like my ideal Notre Dame Navy sites in the Northeast, right? It's an excuse for Notre Dame to showcase itself to its actual Subway alumni. If you use the term Subway alumni in San Diego and Jacksonville, I think that's wrong civically because show me the subway system in San Diego and Jacksonville. It's more like a bus system. Call them like a Metro bus alumni then, not a subway alumni. You have your subway system in Washington, D.C., in Baltimore, in New York City. I guess this is the perfect time for a Chris Russo type thing where I get close to the camera and start pointing and yelling and yelling. But but okay, that's neither here nor there. But for me, like it's just I guess you look at the roots of the rivalry, right? I guess Notre Dame, Notre Dame has their games where Notre Dame has historically wanted to be. I guess there's two destinations, the Northeast and Southern California. Those are the two places that Notre Dame has always wanted to build its brand. Or I guess if like it's like the legend with Newt Rockney's wife wanting a vacation in Southern California, I guess wanted to play games because it's Southern California. That being said, from a stadium and history perspective regarding Navy, I guess if I were to pick a warm weather site that I like, but still not the best vibes, I have to go with San Diego. The 2018 San Diego game, the vibes on that one was immaculate because the game was on the West Coast, prime time, CBS, a CBS broadcast because it was in San Diego. You couldn't throw it on the noon slot, because of that. Um, at the side of the Holiday Bowl, where Navy won the first ever Holiday Bowl, where Phil McConkey, Mister Touchdown in Super Bowl 21, yeah, Super Bowl 21, scored that great touchdown and everything. Which if you haven't watched the NFL Films profile on Phil McConkey, it definitely is stuff that it'll make you want to run through a brick wall. When he said that he's like I had to prove to myself that I could still do it, whenever you got out of the Navy, like that gave me chills, like that on the level of like watching Rocky or Creed, honestly. Where but anyway, I mean just the vibes with that where like Navy has a history in San Diego, the many poinsettia bowls that they played, like the poinsettia bowl, rest in peace. One of my favorite it was always one of my favorite bowl games. Like I still think about the 2014 poinsettia bowl, the back and forth game with the missed field goal. Sorry, Donnie Hagman. I know he redeemed himself in the AAF against when he kicked a game winner for the San Diego Fleet. I know he redeemed himself, but for me that's like the best warm weather site. Jacksonville, it just seemed kind of random. Like Jacksonville's cool and all, but it's like if there was a vibe for that to match, it would be like the Gator Bowl. Didn't really feel like the Gator Bowl or whatever. But again, San Diego, I'd have to say San Diego has better vibes. I mean, plus there's also SeaWorld, Sam. Are there
Ah,
any
you know, SeaWorld's controversial with some people, so I don't know if everyone would agree with you just because of the
Well,
orcas and
I didn't say that you had to watch the animals. They have roller coasters.
I,
I didn't say anything about animals, Sam. That's you.
you said SeaWorld and you know what their logo is. It's the orca. So
Oh, I thought it was like a Charger lightning bolt, but kind of shortened. I thought that's what the logo looked
unless
like.
I'm thinking about something else. I thought it
I
was an
know.
orca.
I'm just joking with you. I think I don't know if this is gaslighting, but I think it might be. I guess I don't know if I'm gaslighting you. I think I might be, but that's just my opinion. San Diego over Jacksonville.
I understand. I get it. I think it's cool. West Coast definitely has different vibes. But I just know, I guess maybe just because I'm an East Coast guy and I like warm weather. Jacksonville was very cool to watch. But also I do understand the history of the Northeast, and I think it's good that they play them up there in Baltimore and New York. I'm not knocking them at all. But the question was vibes. And the vibes in Jacksonville were immaculate. So I was just answering the question truthfully. I didn't want to have to explain myself too much. So
That's a good point. I mean, I guess with vibes though, I don't know. Vibes can mean anything. It's a very I guess we're talking about being old guys. It's a very I guess ambiguous thing that the youth, talk about. Vibes can mean anything. For me, the vibes of the 2018 Notre Dame game, seeing Garrett Lewis start a game on primetime network TV, like You'd have to be put on a federal list if you enjoyed that. No offense to him. I mean, he's not exactly like the greatest Navy quarterback of all time, but he had definitely had great moments for sure for Navy. But like
Yeah.
he's not
I,
Malcolm Perry or Ricky Dobbs.
I'm a big Garrett Lewis guy. He's a big fan of the page. I thought he was good. I think he
He was
was
good in that
underrated.
game. He did what he
Yeah,
could for sure.
yeah. He's underrated. I think when you have him sandwiched between Keenan Reynolds and then you had that 1 year of Will Worth, and then you have Malcolm Perry. You kind of forget that he smashed in there, and he didn't even do that bad. You look at what happened in 2018. The defense was in shambles. I mean, you're giving up yards, and that's why Buddy Green decided to leave, and then Newberry came in. And in 2019, you somehow found Malcolm Perry. You finally figured out, oh, maybe he should be the quarterback and not a slot back. Finally, you figured it out. I mean, he rushed for 1,000 yards in 2018 as a slot back. But I mean, Garrett Lewis, big fan. Shout out to Garrett.
I guess I'll take this back, because I'm never one to be critical of players. I guess like in terms like Garrett Lewis is very much a player that if we're having a couple beers and we're just like sitting by the fire pit, he just randomly comes up. Like no criticism, but it's like, hey, remember that time Garrett Lewis had like 30 carries against SMU and almost beat SMU? Like it's like it's like
I'm telling you,
like that.
those are the best. And then people talk about Zach AB. See, AB wasn't terrible, but you know what? I am someone that just speaks the truth, and if you don't like it, oh
Oh
well.
man,
I
no
guess
Zach Avey slander. See, because like
he
he
turned
ran
he
for
turned the
1,400
ball over.
yards.
He had a problem. I mean, I'm not going to try to be too critical, but he would have been just as good to have just closed his eyes and thrown the ball. I mean, he was just a turnover machine, but when he ran the ball, he was special. Throwing the ball was definitely his weak point.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, yeah, I guess I'll say that because like for me, I never understood why he was moved from quarterback after running for 1,400 yards. I'm like, I was thinking like, isn't that what you want him to do? Run for 1,400 yards? But yeah, I guess I'll say I recant my statement on Garrett Lewis. I'll rephrase it. No, nothing but love for Garrett Lewis. It's just kind of like one of those fun moments in the rivalry, I guess. But I mean, I guess as it is, we stand on different coasts in terms of warm weather venues for sure for Notre Dame-Navy. I guess going to like the East Coast venues, and recently we've had Baltimore. Baltimore made its like hadn't hosted a game in 14 years. And I think also too, like this isn't like I guess the gap between 2008 to 2022 was not the first long gap that the rivalries had away from Baltimore. I think from like it was like from 19, I think it was like 1958 all the way to 1988 doing some research. Sorry, 1958 to 1987 or 1959 to 1987. Odd years, odd numbered years. 1959 to 1987. I don't think Baltimore Memorial Stadium hosted a single Notre Dame Navy game, which is crazy because of course Navy is close to Baltimore. So I guess in terms of East Coast vibes, MetLife, Baltimore, or even the one off year at FedEx Field, I guess. Which East Coast side has the best vibes for you, Sam?
Oh, that's man. FedEx Field, maybe. I just think because you're the Naval Academy, and the capital is DC. But honestly, Baltimore would be my pick. Um, I just think Baltimore is kind of a slept-on city. I went there a couple of years ago, and it's cool. It's a cool place. M&T Bank Stadium, underrated. One of the better stadiums. People don't talk about it enough. And hear me out. This could be controversial. If you want to get real funky with Baltimore, play the game in Camden Yards. Because I know you can. I know you're a sucker for football field on baseball stadiums, Omar. I just know you are. So I think just a one-off, just something different. Um, but Baltimore, you're right, close to the Naval Academy. All the midshipmen can go there, have a good time, and then get back to Annapolis in what I don't know, 2 hours at most. I don't know geography of Maryland that well, unfortunately. But I would say Baltimore would be the best vibes in terms of those three.
Ooh, okay. So I guess my thing with Baltimore is like, I guess this is like a random question, but I feel like I enjoyed the aesthetic of M&T Bank Stadium more when they had turf. I don't know if that's just a me thing, because I feel like the aesthetic with grass is just kind of weird after seeing like them have turf, like, and they've had grass for like almost 10 years at this point.
Oh, well, okay. We all know the turf versus grass debate is controversial.
I'm talking about the aesthetic.
I mean, I get you're talking about the aesthetic, but me, I'm a natural grass guy. Okay, I like them playing in the dirt, and when it rains, it gets muddy, and you don't have to hear too much about ankle injuries. You would think, especially when it's dry. But I mean, who doesn't love a game where it's raining hard? We're just logging it out in the mud. Takes away from that. And let me tell you, a Navy Notre Dame game, if it's raining hard, I mean, that could be a slugfest. And it would help Navy out. So a team that likes to run the ball, someone who's aggressive on defense, Notre Dame known for more of a passing game now. If you remember 2016, Deshaun Kaiser trying to throw the ball all over the field. I mean, it was sunny that day, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, if it's going to be a run heavy game, give me natural grass.
Yeah, I guess what I mean by the aesthetic is okay. So like thinking about it too, like the 2007 Army Navy games on YouTube, the 2008 Notre Dame Navy games on YouTube. You look at like, I guess in those years when I guess those games were at that stadium, they still had the Baltimore Ravens shield logo. It's almost unthinkable. It's like thinking that it's like thinking that like when the Patriots hosted this past year, or whenever the Eagles hosted them having their midfield logo during the Army Navy game. It's unthinkable. It's like it's almost like a sickening type of
Yeah,
vibe, like type of aesthetic. Maybe I'm just there for like the quirky aesthetic where I guess back in like '08 when they still had the turf and they couldn't wash off the Ravens logo, like thinking about that frantic '08 comeback, which is also one of my favorite Notre Dame Navy games when Navy almost came back from 3 touchdowns down in 3 minutes, which I think at that point, had they had Notre Dame lost, I think Charlie Weiss should have been fired on the spot.
I,
And maybe they
yeah,
don't get like honestly, that's just a wild thought to think of. Actually, I guess I'm gonna go on a little rabbit hole, a little bit of what's that guy's name? I was gonna say Infinity War, but Doctor Strange.
yep. I'm
But
tricking
Doctor,
with it. Go ahead.
yeah, a bit of a Doctor Strange. Like I obviously don't watch many superhero movies. That's why I was about to call the hero himself Infinity War, but Doctor Strange, I think if Navy finds a way to score after recovering that final onside kick in 2008, it's very possible I think that Charlie Weiss gets fired because Notre Dame finishes at 6-6. They don't go to the Hawaii Bowl because the next year in 2009 they went 6-6 and didn't go to a bowl game. Maybe it was because of coaching search, and maybe Notre Dame doesn't hire Brian Kelly. So it's just thinking that like one touchdown in 2008 could have probably or like I guess Notre Dame making that stop just to, like determine the landscape of college football, because like even then if Brian Kelly never gets hired by Notre Dame, like he never gets hired by LSU arguably. So it's just like and arguably Jaden Daniels doesn't win the Heisman. So I'm just gonna leave it there before this rabbit hole gets too insane. But
Wow.
just a random thought I thought about, just like a random I guess I guess like a alternate reality we could have lived in had Navy scored and beat Notre Dame in 2008.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Brian Kelly likes playing Navy, to be honest. I mean, you think about 2 years ago, they were actually playing in Baltimore where Navy almost came back and won. Masai Maynor came in just cold, started leading the boys down the field. Oh, that
Was
was
that was Freeman though? I think that was Marcus Freeman, that
was it
Freeman
Freeman?
center. That was
What?
Freeman.
Okay.
It has
I,
been that long. It's crazy to believe that it has been that long. That Brian Kelly's been away from Notre Dame. But that was Marcus Freeman. I guess the one you're thinking of for sure is the 2016 game. 2014 was also like another rodeo where like Navy came back from 28-7 and almost beat Notre Dame at FedEx. But I would agree that Brian Kelly doesn't have the strongest reputation among college fans, and I guess that he didn't enjoy those games.
uh, you know, the one thing I'll say about Notre Dame, is if they ever decide to discontinue this rivalry, I will lose a lot of respect. You think about the history of this game. You think about the 43-year streak we have to do. We Navy won't win all the time per se because Notre Dame technically has more talent and they can recruit and whatever. But without the Naval Academy, Notre Dame would probably not be here. And if you just cut off, but this is a rabbit hole as well. This is just more of a personal statement at this point. um, if Notre Dame cuts that off, that'll be bad for college football, and college football is already in a bad spot. I'm just gonna keep it real with everyone. I don't like the way that's going. The things that are happening. I feel like the only teams that can truly say they are college football all the way through and through is the military academies. Because, I mean, they don't have the NIL, they don't have that. They have dudes that just want to be there and win and compete and not focus on this money. Because guess what? They're going pro in something other than sports. I know the NCAA loved that phrase back in the day, but it's true. They have a higher calling that isn't football. But man, let me tell you, whenever a military academy is good at football, people watch. So I'll just say college football would be in a worse spot if Notre Dame ever just cut off the series.
And I mean, I would agree, I guess. So I'm going to address that before going to actually say like which East Coast, because I know I haven't said which East Coast site has the best vibes, in my opinion, which I guess for me would be which site has the best vibes in general. I think Notre Dame Navy is kind of like a link to, I guess, Notre Dame's built, I guess, Notre Dame's first emerging onto as a national power, I guess, like in the Newt Rockne tenure, because late 20s Navy was really good. And for Notre Dame, this was a beneficial game for them to continue, becoming that trajectory towards becoming, that American national program. And with the game being played to this day, like you look at Notre Dame's schedule, like what games do they have that reflect that, that harken back to that age that have been staples to how they've emerged as a national program? It's just Notre Dame Navy and Notre Dame USC are the only two sort of like national games that have been on the schedule since like the 20s and 30s in that throwback era. So it's like, and yes, of course, like there is the whole Navy offshore training program, which absolutely has merit. But that's also another perspective that adds to it, I think, that throwback feel where it's like Notre Dame needed this, I guess Notre Dame found this game beneficial to building their national brand. And so they played it, even back in the day, they played it at Cleveland Stadium, the old mistake by the lake, the house that Bob Feller built. They played it at, Baltimore Stadium, they played it, in these important in these metropolises, if you will. I guess now talking about like which side has the best vibes, I'm gonna have to disagree with the Baltimore take because it's just so close. I mean, the stadium, I guess, is like I guess it's not even a stadium, but I guess like it's just close. The history in Baltimore, it's like, it's kind of, I wouldn't say limited, but there's been like, like some long hiatuses. For me, I think Giant Stadium slash MetLife has the best vibes in my opinion. And it's not because of stadium. I guess it's because for me, like when people think about Notre Dame Navy, they think about the streak. And I guess like for today's day and age, right? Like with this 2024 game where I don't know if Navy's projected to go to a bowl this year. I'm not sure if Navy's projected to be particularly good this year. I think their ceiling is maybe a 7-5, 6-6, and like that's another podcast. But it's just like seeing like Notre Dame probably get a team that's probably in contention for the 12-team playoff this year, playing against Navy. It just brings back that feel that everyone knows that everyone remembers where it's like, okay, like Navy's rolling out their team, they're playing at Giant Stadium. And I guess like something like I think of a lot when I think about Giant Stadium slash MetLife is the 93 game where a lot of people don't know that the week after Notre Dame beat Florida State in the game of the century, actually it might not have been the week after. I'll have to check. It might have been a couple weeks after, like the week before the week after. But I think it was like the week after the game of the century against Florida State. they played Navy at Giant Stadium, and they were actually trailing at halftime to a Navy team that ended up going 4-7. So it was just like, okay, it was the week before. It was the week before. So they were looking ahead to the game of the century ranked number two. Yeah, the week before the game of the century, people don't realize that Navy led at halftime of that game before, of course, Notre Dame won 58-27 and whatnot. But it's just like that vibe where it's just like Navy always gave Notre Dame their best in no matter what. At Giant Stadium slash MetLife Stadium. Of course, the 2010 game, giving Notre Dame their best, I mean, that comes to mind with them dominating Notre Dame in the game, but it's like we're kind of returning to that era, I guess, where like I feel like another streak's brewing and everything. And I don't want it to be that way. I don't want it to be that way, but it's just like kind of like that kind of throwback vibe where it's just like, there's a lot of discourse like why is this game being played anyways, I guess. And it's I mean, I'm gonna say like throwback again, but just like that 80s era even, but
I will say you never know. You never know. I mean, either sometimes the games have to be played. And you could say, oh, there's gonna be another streak, NIL, blah, blah, blah. People talk all about that and that college football is, dying. Okay, whatever. But the game's gotta be played on the field. And let me tell you, when it gets close, I will always take the Naval Academy because if they're supposed to be composed during combat, I think they're going to be composed on a football game as well.
I definitely agree. And I guess another thing I should add is like Navy has an extensive history at Giant Stadium, Army Navy games. I mean, some of the most iconic moments in Army Navy game, despite like having so few games at Giant Stadium and MetLife Stadium, happen at Giant Stadium. You talk about 2002 Craig Candido scoring 7 touchdowns against Army, 58-12 game. You talk about even some of the 1989 Army Navy game where Frank Shank made the field goal with like I think 10 seconds left. And then 4 years later, Ryan Buccineri's his infamous miss, 18-yard miss at Giant Stadium. And of course too, like I mean Navy played in the 81 or I guess the 1980 Garden State Bowl at Giant Stadium. So I guess like that combination of history where I guess we see kind of like in the post Staubach era, I guess some of the Naval Academy's best moments um came at Giant Stadium. I guess not even best moments, but they've been a fixture at Giant Stadium for sure. So I think that for me that's the best vibe with history in mind. I haven't even talked about it being in New York City, which like for me I couldn't care less about that, but I just think Giant Stadium has the best vibe, or like East Rutherford, New Jersey. MetLife Stadium is the best Notre Dame Navy vibes for me for sure, especially as we enter this new era where like no one really like Navy. I guess the Paul Johnson years are far behind. The Kenya Matalolo years are kind of they're kind of distant. I'll give Coach Newberry a chance, but it's looking like a mirror reflection of like the mid '80s when the coach at that point was it was Elliot Uzelac or Gary Tranquil, that era
Yeah,
where like you had some mediocre Navy teams
you
playing good
know,
Notre Dame teams.
I will say because I don't like to give away sources when they don't want me to, so I won't. But I will just say this season was one big cluster, you know what. Just some drama behind the scenes, and it's unfortunate. And you don't want to make excuses like that for a bad season. But when you hear what's going on behind the scenes, it makes you think. Especially some things surrounding the offensive side of the ball and the offensive coordinator. It was very interesting to hear.
I mean, but Xavier Arline did break a 40-year-old completion percentage record this year,
And
so
I'm telling you, that
hang
was
the
that was
banner.
that was cool. Hang Banner. I mean, not 90%. Was he 90% that game passing?
I think so. He was like 10 for 11. He was
Yeah.
on it.
I mean, let me tell you, he was in his games that he played. We'll take away the Army Navy game. I thought he played well. I honestly did. It made you think, oh, why didn't he start the whole season? And then Ty Labatai did well. And it's like, well, why didn't he play? But he had always been injury prone, which is unfortunate. I think if honestly both those guys stayed healthy, I wouldn't have cared who was quarterback because they're both really good. Different skill sets, but very good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll see this year. I mean, Blake Horvath had flashes. Braxton Woodson too, for sure. So I mean, we'll definitely see with the new with the new
What?
the new
Who?
Braxton Woodson with the new. I know you have opinions, but um,
I did, and I will say I have to clear the air because people are like, oh man, he's harsh. It's like I'm just gonna state the truth, but I'm also the biggest supporter. So of course I want him to do well. I want everyone to do well, but I'm also gonna give my honest opinion. And if you don't like it, okay, that's fine. But I try to keep my opinions truth based, and if I don't know something, I'll just say I don't know.
that's good. No, I mean, honesty is the best policy for sure. But yeah, like we'll see. Hopefully this year, a Drew Chronic coach team can beat Army because they failed in his one attempt in the past when he was at Mercer. I got to bring that up to troll you. The 2020 Mercer Army game, where he couldn't muster more than 3 points.
Uh, it's going to be interesting. With the wing T style system, that's what he's been touting. It'll be interesting. You're kind of transitioning away from the flex bone system of Paul Johnson and Ken Niumatalolo, and then whatever we had last year. Don't even know what that was. We don't even know. So I'm excited. Seems like the players like him. Seems like he's a very nice guy, and I'm honestly excited. Just because I miss college football, but I do love college basketball, so I'm getting by for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely miss college football for sure. Excuse excuse me after work podcast, but yeah, like I definitely miss
I didn't
college
know I was
football.
born here, Omar. My goodness.
No, no, it's just geez, work's just tiring. But yeah, like I even less so I guess I'm less than I'm less of a college basketball fan than you are. So I guess I'm getting by less, but for sure, like, with these schedule releases coming out, and with, games already scheduled, like, Notre Dame-Navy in 2024, I'm getting by too, just thinking of the season, looking ahead, and I'm just waiting honestly for I mean, the UFL is cool and all, but they dissolved my favorite team. I'm looking forward to indoor football, really. I mean, the indoor game, honestly, it's just exciting. If you have not watched an indoor football game, definitely watch it. Like, the games are on YouTube, easy to watch, easy to access. It's an exciting game for sure. And I mean, it's just so I guess just a little side note, I guess, so off-season side note, but yeah, that's all I got, Sam, in terms of this discussion. I guess just to recap for our listeners and viewers, you think Jacksonville has the best vibes, with on the East Coast, Baltimore has the best Notre Dame Navy vibes. For me, I think San Diego's the best West Coast slash, I guess warm weather vibes. But for me, give me Notre Dame Navy a giant stadium, and I will be happy. Sorry, MetLife Stadium, Giant Stadium 2.0. Sam, do you have anything
I
else
thought
to
it,
add?
yeah, I thought it was 3.0. That's what you said at the beginning.
Did I say three?
You said 3.0.
Oh man,
I
geez.
think
I
the
guess
people
I
need
took
to. I think the people need to rewatch just to see the progression of the numbers.
there will be a 3.0 at some point. I mean, I guarantee you there will be a 3.0 at some point in our lives. Um, yeah.
Maybe after the World Cup. I
Oh
think it's cool that
man.
it's cool that they're playing in the same stadium as the World Cup final, which I think they chose the wrong spot. But
I think we
that's
all did because it's New York though, Sam. Kinda.
oh yeah, East Rutherford. Woo, New York City, baby.
You can see the skyscrapers because I've been on the bus ride back to they offer like the I guess the metro bus back to like the New York City substation. It's a very pretty ride back. You can see the skyscrapers along the river, I mean,
I'm just thinking about the people that are traveling from around the world, Brazil, France. They're like, ooh, New York. Uh, I think they might be in for a slight surprise when they realize that it isn't in New York City.
that's what public transportation is for, Sam. That's what the MTA, that's what NJ Transit, that's what all those places are for, though.
I can't imagine. I mean, I feel like they're going to have to improve, the transit system. I mean, they're going to have so many people. the buses, the trains, the Ubers. I mean, it's going to be all hands on deck, but it's cool that soccer of the greatest variety is coming back.
Yeah, the house that it's coming back to the house that Eli Manning or Zach Wilson built, you know.
Man,
The house that Zach Wilson built,
I thought that was Rex Ryan, Mark Sanchez with those two AFC championships.
Yeah, yeah, you could say that. Yeah, Rex Ryan, Mark Sanchez. Trying to think who else. Yeah, I guess that those are all candidates for sure. If anything, the defense built that place back in the day.
Imagine talking to someone from not from America, talking to him about the ballad of Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez.
Oh
I mean,
man, just yeah, yeah. That's just don't mention the tattoo or anything.
the butt fumble.
Oh man, what a saga. But yeah, I guess do you have anything final to add, Sam?
Not really. Just glad that you're back, that you're making content. I know I enjoy it. I know a lot of other people enjoy it. And make sure to go follow the Blue and Gold Report on X at Blue, the letter N Gold Report, and to keep up with me.
Exactly. Keep with Sam with good, honest Navy commentary. And for sure, like I mean, no one works harder to bring Navy content than Sam and Tell like it is. I'm excited for this upcoming season for both of us. Army's first year in the American. I guess hopefully, I guess for me, I'm hoping that we end up in the military bowl for sure because we've had our chances in the past playing in the military bowl. I know that'll be a fun experience for Navy fans seeing Army slathered across one of the NMC Navy Marine Corps NMCMS end zones. But yeah, that's just my hope for this year.
I'm just saying, Army Navy needs to come to Navy Marine Corps to make up for that 2020 home game that you guys had.
Yeah, I just need you to bring that bad energy elsewhere because the only thing that's gonna make that happen is a pandemic, Sam. I mean,
Oh, you know what? You know what? It's fine. It's fine. I don't want, nobody wants that. I'm just saying, just remember 2020, guess who was in the Super Bowl? Chiefs 49ers.
oh man.
I'm not saying, election year as well. I'm just saying, a lot of things are like, I don't want it again, Omar. I don't. I don't think anybody does.
I guess on that note, I will cancel out that bad juju, hopefully. And thanks for joining, Sam. But let us know in the comments what you think. I guess as viewers and listeners, what you guys think is the best Notre Dame Navy site, or if there's any site we didn't mention. I know we didn't talk about Cleveland. Cleveland of all cities has hosted Notre Dame Navy multiple times.
That's Ohio.
And it'll probably never host it again, but maybe I've spoken too soon. But let us know in the comments what you think the best Notre Dame Navy site is and any cities that haven't hosted that you would like to see host. Just love talking about America's greatest intersectional rivalry. But until next time, everyone, I'm Omar Sean Bora, the Burger Popper on Twitter. And thanks for watching and listening. Peace, love, and soul.